Okay, so it's restorative practice today, and we're going to start on our backs actually instead of seated. So we're going to take a version of reclining bound angle, which is using a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you can roll up a blanket or two, and that's going to support behind the chest. And then you also want some support for your head so that your chin and chest are even. They're not at an angle with each other. And if bound angle feels too extreme to start with, you can just cross your legs. So when you come back on the bolster, just try to see that your lumbar spine is not on it, and then it's mostly just kind of behind the rib cage. And then you might need to build up the height for the head since your torso is a little bit higher from the floor. And with the bolster there, you probably have to stretch the arms out wide. So just make sure your palms are turned up. And again, joining the feet if that's possible, otherwise crossing the legs. And we're just going to start here connecting with our sensations in the body, connecting with our breath, giving ourselves a chance to arrive. Just start to scan your body and detect where there's some resistance, where there's sensation, maybe where you're not allowing a full release of the body, meeting the floor, meeting the props. Some gripping maybe happening in your groins, maybe in your hips. Allowing the chest to broaden, the abdomen to soften. With your eyes closed, gently looking toward your cheeks, away from the brain. Noticing the thoughts. And giving yourself some time to explore if there's any particular intention for this practice today. This practice is a chance to offset tension that we kind of have had long enough to ignore. So we try to get quiet enough and supported enough and passive enough that those kind of default tensions that we carry may start to unravel. And we'll just kind of welcome the nervous system in with the 4-6 breathing ratio. So inhaling a 4 count, exhaling a 6 count, and you can customize that ratio if you need to kind of trim it back or make it a little bit longer. Just try to see that your exhale is longer than your inhale. And as you breathe, just inviting that kind of silky, smooth breath. Just a couple more rounds of that. And when you empty out the next exhalation, just come back to an easier breath pattern, your automatic breathing, the breath you don't control. And if you are in bound ankle pose, joining the knees and kind of stepping the feet out wide for a few more moments. You're in cross-legged position as well. And now we're going to start to gently move to either side. And we'll be coming into child's pose. You really want to make it comfortable. So sometimes that means you have to prop the pose. You could prop the head, the hands, the area between the buttocks and heels, maybe the chest. It doesn't have to be the same every time, of course, so just kind of listening into the body. Make sure that your knees are wide enough that your torso can start to pass down through that space toward the floor. And then just check in with the tailbone that it's pointing down, not up. Sometimes another prop that is useful is kind of sandwiching a blanket between the thighs and the calf muscles to the backs of the knees if you have knee discomfort here. Noticing how the body is incrementally starting to elongate, starting to deepen into the pose. Every exhale, feeling the spine stretching out. And try to make sure the forehead is supported, either directly to the floor with some other prop. We're going to transition to a half heart chakra pose. So on an in-breath, just start to move your weight forward. And you'll just step the knees in line with your hips. You'll swing the feet out as wide as the knees. And whatever's on your mat, if anything, you can just roll it off to the side. So we'll keep the hips where they are. So it's not child's pose, taking the hips back. Just keep your hips above the knees. And to make this pose a little quieter, a little softer, we're going to keep the left arm extended and take the right forearm under the forehead. And if that feels too low, you can add something over the forearm or under the forearm to bring the floor up to you. And we will switch the arms after several breaths. That big invitation for the back body to sink toward the front body with every passing exhale. Leaning into those exhalations, really try to drain them out of the body. Complete elimination of the out breath. Now gently switching the arms to extend the right arm and prop the head with the left forearm. You're going to finish out your next exhalation here. And on an inhale, just take the tailbone into the body, round your spine, find your way onto your hands. Kind of a safer transition out of that deep extension. And we're going to do a series of prone positions. So we're going to pad the center of the mat with a blanket. And just a thin blanket. We still want to be really kind of flat on the floor. We don't want to have the blanket misaligned in the body. Just bring enough underneath you to soften the pelvis and hips against the floor. And then we'll take care of our legs. We're just pressing each foot down and lifting your inner thighs up, centering your thighs. And try to find your feet almost to the edges of the mat, wider than the hips. Try to sense your small toes are as low as your big toes. And we'll start with the prayer position, stepping the elbows out, placing the hands together and resting the thumbs against the forehead. So we need a little bit of action with the tailbone moving into the body to lengthen the lumbar, to quiet the lumbar so it's not feeling pinched or irritated. The placement of the forehead should be that the neck is not creased. So try to slide closer to the hairline if you need to. And then there's enough pressure in the elbows that your shoulders are releasing down. And really pressing the belly into the floor each time you breathe in, forcing the breath into the back body. Relax your jaw. Maybe even bring a light smile to your face to help with that. We're just going to kind of start to deepen the extension, but keep this sense of quietness. So you're going to bring the hands away from the forehead and bring the elbows underneath your shoulders, resting in Sphinx pose, but with the palms up, the palms turned up. And again, take care of the tailbone pointing toward the floor. Enough weight in the elbows. Your shoulders don't hover around the ears. And with the palms up, just feeling how that can help broaden your chest, like a smile from armpit to armpit. And then if you can keep that, just turning your palms down, but trying to maintain that sense of broadness across your chest. Put your neck in a position where you still have that consideration of a neutral flow. So we don't want that crease. You might have to look toward the floor. You might benefit by closing the eyes. We have effort where it's needed, but then the other side of that is really minimizing effort where it isn't needed. We'll unhinge the jaw, soften the face. Relax the forehead. We're going to start to transition again, just kind of keep increasing the extension slightly. So you're just going to turn your hands so that your fingers turn out at an angle. Your thumbs look like extensions of the inner wrists. And then you're going to pressurize your hands so that you can start to extend the arms. And of course, if this is too much, back off or come back to your forearms. Winding the inner elbows toward the ceiling. Keep the outer hips rolling down, the inner thighs lifting, the tailbone pointing toward the floor. And again, arrange your neck not determined by what you're looking at, but determined by the sweeping flow of the spine. So it might help you close the eyes to find that perfect area for the placement of the head. Imagine you're lengthening from the tailbone out through the top of the head. And then make sure to locate the areas that you don't need to be applying effort. And after an inhalation, exhale back to your forearms. And step your knees to the edges of your mat and resting on the inner feet. And just keep your arms comfortable. You might interlock the hands. I'm just going to work with the legs a little bit here. Taking the legs into a bent knee position. So on an exhale, start to bend the knees and join the feet. Look forward. Keep the tailbone moving toward the floor. And keep enough weight in your elbows that your shoulders stay down. And then if you'd like to include the arms we just did, you can bring your fingers back to pointing to the corners of the mat. On an exhale, begin to extend the arms. You might not need both sides of this pose. Sometimes either or is a better fit. And just 5 breaths here. Top of the inhale, and then exhale, soften back to your forearms. Extend the legs, and then bring the legs back so they're hip distance apart now. We're going to come into Parivrtta Padangusthasana, but entering from the prone position. So we don't usually enter that way. Okay, so on your belly, you're going to kind of shift weight to your left hip side so that you can swing your right leg out to the side. And you might need to support your right foot or inner leg somewhere with a bolster or a block. And then you'll begin to roll that right shoulder toward the floor. You can keep your legs passive. Since we're in a restorative class, they don't have to be effortful, stick straight legs. But roughly a 90-degree relationship. You might use your left hand to kind of hold the right leg where it is, just to give it a sense of arriving. Your right hand might drape over the right side ribs, or it might unfold perpendicular from the trunk. And then your head follows that right arm. So you might have to spend some time looking at the ceiling. You eventually might be able to roll the head all the way to the right. But after that series of back bends, just kind of soothing the nervous system, releasing the spine, enjoying those exhales, the really juicy side of the breath for the twist. And the more you can surrender the legs, just notice that the spine will benefit. We're going to finish on an exhalation here. And when you're ready to inhale, it's helpful to bend your knees. We're going to come back onto the belly. Move gently, slowly, carefully. And then we're going to roll on to our right hip side, swinging the left leg out sideways and beginning to roll the left shoulder down. So again, you might use your right hand to support the left leg. You might prop the left foot or leg. You might keep your left hand on your side ribs for now. You might begin to unfold the arm. And you're probably meeting some resistance here. So just acknowledging that, allowing that, and then breath by breath, maybe watching it dissolve. On an exhalation, just really follow that breath out, just tracking it to completion. Then after that, when you're ready to inhale, use that in-breath to help you bend that top leg knee, roll back onto your belly. And then you'll press yourself up. We're going to do a series of seated positions. And the first pose we're going to do is half Lord of the Fishes, which requires a little more height under the buttocks. So you can create that height by sitting on a block if that's a block works if you're able to get your sitting bones on it. And sometimes for those of us that have a little more surface area, you might put two blocks side by side. However, if you do that, just know that you're going to need an additional block or something of similar height behind you. So try to have your props nearby. We're going to stay in a series of seated positions for a little while. And we'll begin with half Lord of the Fishes. So this is, again, elevate the sitting bones significantly. Right knee is going to be kind of forward from the right hip. And left foot is going to be alongside the right shin. Left heel is in alignment with left sitting bone. And then the block or whatever you have of significant height, you're going to put directly behind your buttocks on the floor. It's going to be hand support. So just go ahead and take hold of your left shin with your right hand. With your left hand, touch down to that block you've placed behind you. And slowly start to turn to the left. Try to keep your left knee on top of the ankle, especially if you're feeling it kind of wanting to press out. And we're not going to move the neck into the full rotation yet. So just have your chin right above your sternum. Might be helpful to close the eyes so that your eyes aren't pulling you or dragging you around. And see if you can sense those right outer ribs starting to float toward the left. And then gently carrying your chin to align it toward the left shoulder. And then make sure to close the eyes for a few breaths. See if you can visualize your spine turning deeper on those exhalations, extending or lengthening on the inhalations. Release the flesh of the left buttock toward the block. And on an in-breath, lift yourself up and come out of that twist. So now we're going to replace the block that you're sitting on with something a little lower and a little softer. So good prop to use is a blanket. And we're going to need the strap. We're going to do our cow pose. So the most mild position for the legs is swastikasana, or the cross-legged position. And for this side, you want to have your left shin in front of the right shin. However, if you're able to do a deeper leg position, you might start to stack knee over ankle and ankle over knee. Or you might start to move into the knee stacking position. We're going to take the strap into our right hand and send the arm all the way up. And revolve the arm, inward rotation of the arm so that your palm faces back. Bend your elbow and try to bring your hand to the area between your shoulder blades. Do your best to lift up with the right elbow and also move it toward midline and also take it slightly back. And then extend your left arm out, thumb down, knuckles forward, and attempt to catch that strap as high as you can. Crawl the hands together. Eventually the hands don't go any closer. You'll just pull the strap. You'll resist the hands apart without letting the hands slide. Take both elbows toward the wall behind you. Bring your navel to your spine, your tailbone curls into the body, your skull is directly above the spine. Good. And then again, eyes closed, gaze is pointed down. So that's important here because we have so much flying up energy in the upper body. We want to kind of tame it back, look toward the cheeks. And also just kind of bring attention down to what's supporting you, your legs. Soft jaw, soft forehead, soft cheeks. And now soften out of the arm position. You can just put the strap aside. And we'll take the left leg out 45 degrees. We're going to come into head of the knee pose. The right heel moves in toward the right inner thigh. And then make sure to support your right knee if it's floating, or if your groins are gripping, your hip is gripping, you want to support the knee. If you have an easy way of putting your head down, either on your leg directly or on a prop, you might set that up right now because, as we know, head support is really a lot more quieting. Sometimes a combination of props can work, like a block and a bolster, blankets and bolster. Just kind of guesstimate or do a little test to see what you need. But then come back up and use your fingertips on the floor to help you turn your torso as well as you can so that your chest aligns with your left leg. And when you've gotten that alignment, then start to come forward and see about the head coming down. If you're able to free up the arms, it can be really quieting for the shoulders to do a resting forearm palms up position. Otherwise, just make sure your shoulders aren't kind of in that gripping or effortful state, that they're surrendered somehow. Starting to maybe feel a warm release in the right lower back. Again, just really tracking with the exhalations, letting them completely funnel out of the body to the very end. So on an in-breath, just start to gently rise up. And you can put your bolster or some height, it could be a couple blocks, in front of your right shin and fold the left knee back. So we're going to do a soft pigeon pose. So aligning your bolster or blanket just directly in front of that shin. right shin, and then maybe adding some height. We're going to be folding forward over the shin. So you're just going to see about it, see what you need. Notice you can always kind of reduce the propping as you're able to get deeper into the position. If you have an easy way to bring forehead support, you could do the hands to prayer, the elbows to the prop. When we work with our hips, the more we can do to feel quiet and surrendered, the more likely the hips are going to start to release their tension patterns that they're very, very good at holding. The hips are. So somebody asked recently if they need this bolster in front of them. If you're able to come directly to the floor, of course, you can do that. So just go to your deepest. I just usually teach to kind of the median level. Get kind of interested in what's going on in your right hip space. There might be kind of a tight fist feeling there. Maybe the tight fist is starting to release, but maybe it's slowly. Remember, the exhales are kind of the optimal time to offload tension in the body. So really capitalize on those out breaths, extend them as far as they go. You come through the end of the next exhalation. Inhale to start to rise up, lengthen yourself up. And we'll come into Dandasana just to kind of feel the legs nice and straight again. So you're still on the edge of your blanket. Your legs are out in front of you. And just bring your hands next to your hips. Try to align your shoulders right over the hips. Your spine is nice and tall. Your elbows a little bit clamped in. And press your legs into the floor. Try to press the backs of the knees into the floor. Squeeze your thigh muscles. Kind of reaffirming the good alignment of your knees. Roll the inner knees down. Reach out through your heels, ball mounds, and toe pads. And then when you're ready, when the legs feel kind of refreshed, you might need to bounce them or massage them. So do that as well. But we'll set up for the side two of that sequence. So we'll come back to the height underneath the sitting bones. Maybe it's the block, maybe it's a couple blankets, but just make sure it's a little bit more than what you have right now. You also want a height for the hand behind you. So maybe that's a bolster, maybe it's a block. And this time we'll have the left knee kind of sitting in front of the left hip line, which means your left heel is near the right sitting bone. And then your right foot is placed in front of the left ankle or shin. And the left heel is in alignment with the right sitting bone. Right heel is in alignment with the right sitting bone, sorry. Okay, so the prop and block is there. Left hand will just kind of take hold of the right shin. Right hand finds that block and make sure it's immediately behind you. So you're not leaning back on the arm. You want to have the arm close so that your spine stays very upright. And breath by breath, you're leaning into that twist. You're moving into that twist with a neutral neck, chin above chest. You might close the eyes. And notice the lighter right sitting bone and just remind the flesh of that outer hip and buttock to move toward the floor. Maybe envisioning the left side ribs starting to come more forward. Keep your skull right over your spine. If the head is forward of the spine, you can usually feel that it's neck tension. So you might envision the face moving toward the back of the head to make that very minor kind of correction. Unhinge your jaw, look down. Only look down if the eyes are closed. If the eyes are open, just look straight ahead. And now finish with your head turning, your chin aligning over the right shoulder or close to that area. Bringing out the spine. And after an exhale, inhale, lengthen or float back to center. And then just kind of quietly transition to some lower, softer support. If it was a block, make sure it's a blanket now, not anything hard or unforgiving. And you'll come into cross-legged position, right shin in front of left. Maybe coming to that deeper shin over shin. Some people call it log stacking. But we definitely want to feel secure and anchored in the lower body. Finding our strap and taking hold of it with the left hand. Reaching the arm up. And then rotating the arm as well as you can so that your palm faces back. Bend at the elbow and attempt to touch down to that area between your shoulder blades. Extend the right arm out, thumb down. And then see if you can catch that strap nice and high. Crawling the hands together. Notice how the elbows curl forward. So just gently roll the shoulders back, take the tips of the elbows back. Bring your skull right above your spine. Bring the navel toward the spine, lengthen the tailbone into the body, long lumbar spine. Close your eyes and again, look down. Keep resisting the hands apart, the elbow tips apart. Taking the elbows gently back as you're able to, the shoulder blades move in. Try to keep tension out of the jaw and the face and the eyes, the mouth. And gently releasing the effort of the arms, putting the strap aside. And unfolding your right leg out to the side, 45 degrees. Drawing the left heel in, propping the left knee if you need it. Setting up head support if that's accessible to you to get the head down. Otherwise, just make sure you're kind of bowing in a passive way, letting the head kind of descend. But before you come down, use your fingertips against the floor and just kind of rotate the spine in an upright position first. Attempting to align your chest with that right leg. Rotating the chest from left to right. Keeping a sense of foundation and anchoring in that left knee. And then from there, taking your torso down, attempting to prop the head. Attempting to get the shoulders as passive as you can. And when you arrive into the pose, and just kind of surrender as well as you can. And just come up slowly. Come up on an in-breath. We'll be folding forward over the left shin. So you're going to prop in front of that, whatever you're going to use, something soft, maybe adding some height if you need it for head support. Make sure the foot crawls out a little bit from the inner thigh, so you have your shin more parallel with that bolster. And then you're going to fold the right leg back. So we're going to start coming forward and seeing about support. Maybe the arms can come onto the bolster. Maybe the head can go to a block or something else for support. Notice if the props are too much at this point, you might need to reduce. And then again, get interested in what's going on in your left hip space, how much tension or resisting against there is, how much of a tight fist you feel there. Maybe a softening is starting to occur. Notice sensation. Sometimes even giving these areas or pockets of sensation a color, a texture, a temperature. And now gently start to rise up on an in-breath. Take care of your legs here. We're going to do just a couple moments in a downward dog. So come onto your hands and knees. Take the toes under. And on an exhale, extend your legs. Really addressing the straightness of the legs, so take care of the knees. Opening the backs of the knees. Stretching from the backs of the knees down to the heels. And from the backs of the knees up to the sitting bones. Roll the inner knees back. Take the thigh bones back and the shin bones back. And now gently bring your knees down. So the last couple of active poses we're going to do are on our backs, and we're going to be on our backs on a bolster. So again, if you don't have this particular prop, you have to improvise with rolling blankets, or 2 blankets can usually kind of compare to this volume of bolster. You may need a little thin layer of blanket for your head. So you might want to put something where your head will go. What we're going to do is a supported bridge pose into a supported child's pose into a supported upward facing forward bend, back to a bridge pose with legs extended. So we're going to stay on the setup the whole time. So you'll start just kind of sitting on it, and then come back with your torso coming down and your head coming down. If you're using a head blanket, make sure it's not under your shoulders, it's only under your head. And kind of wiggle on that bolster enough that you feel your pelvis bowl tilt back. You feel your tailbone point up toward the ceiling. We don't want a lumbar curve here. We want to kind of flatten the lumbar. And if you're using head support, Just make sure it's minimal, because this is bridge pose. We don't really want to distort the pose at all. Unfold the arms. Try to keep your wrists or forearms as close to the bolster as you can, so you're not super wide. And then roll your shoulders down and your shoulder blades lift into the chest. Chin and chest snuggle together. And then begin to raise the legs so that you're coming into an elevated, supported reclining child's pose. So you're going to bend the knees, raise the legs, and let the thighs drop in toward the chest. And now you're going to reach your arms overhead, level with the floor, on the floor, not vertical, horizontal arms. Palms up, extend through the fingertips. And begin to raise your legs. And then begin to release the legs toward the chest. Keep the chin tilting toward the chest. Keep extending through your fingernails. And try to suck the long arm bones into toward the trunk side, not toward the fingertip side. Every time you exhale, those thighs might come a little bit closer. But we're not forcing that. We're not striving for that. But you might notice it. And now start to bend your knees. Take the feet down one at a time. Bring your arms back down, kind of hugging into the ends of the bolster so they're close as can be. And then extend your legs one by one. Resting on the heels, spacing the heels as wide as the hips or maybe a little bit wider. Flattening the low back against the bolster, keeping the chin close to the chest, keeping the eyes pointed toward the cheeks. Good. And then gently bring your feet back to the floor. Lift your hips and slide the bolster out from under you. And draw the legs in. Take hold of your knees with your hands and circle the knees around. Massage your sacrum. Make smaller and bigger circles so that you're touching all of that surface area against the floor. And then also make sure to change direction. Go ahead and step your feet down. And roll to your side. We're going to do our pranayama practice seated today. So we're going to sit on ample height. That's the most important piece for pranayama, is that you sit on enough height so that your spine really feels supported, elevated, energized, and lifted. When you have all that height, you might need to include support for the knees. We don't want to have effort in the legs, so if you're holding your legs in space, make sure to tuck something under your knees or thighs so that you can surrender the legs. And then we're going to add a blanket over the legs just to kind of raise the height of the lap so that we can rest the hands higher, which means the elbows can surrender more, which means the shoulders can surrender more. So you kind of fold the blanket and just put it over your thighs and then the backs of the hands on the blanket. So So in pranayama, we take Jalandhara Bandha, which is moving the chin toward the chest like you just did for the bridge poses. So we're going to first just kind of float the chest forward and spread the chest. And then lower the chin toward the chest. Close the eyes, look down toward your cheeks. We're going to practice Ujjayi exhales as victorious breath as a translation. But first, just sitting with the breath that's coming and going without any changes made on your part. You're just noticing your baseline breathing here. We're going to start to constrict the muscle in the back of the throat to create that white noise, kind of an ocean sounding breath. Also sounds kind of like how Darth Vader sounds. It's the same action you use to clear your throat, except it's a lot more subtle. It's also the same action you use to fog up a piece of glass, except your lips are sealed. And we're only going to do Ujjayi exhalation today. You might not be able to do every consecutive exhale, so you pay attention to how your body is responding and your brain. And if anything is agitated, come back to baseline breathing. So we always begin pranayama practices starting with a complete inhale, exhale. And then another in breath, followed by one Ujjayi out breath. Slow, steady stream of breath, as if there's a leak in a bike tire. Smooth, silky inhale. Maybe another Ujjayi breath, maybe a full normal exhale. Maybe you need a little break. We're going to do 5 more rounds on your own. And again, if this is agitating to the brain or body, leave it behind. Just sit with your breath. Watch your breath. Whenever you've come through that 5th attempt, just sit with your automatic breathing. And as quietly as you can, you're going to set up for Shavasana. Try not to do anything jarring to the nervous system or to your body. And make sure to gather what you need for support, for warmth, for comfort, for quiet. Make sure the eyes are able to close passively, and if they aren't, maybe putting something over them. Spending some time with the alignment of the pose. And then settling into the surrender, letting all effort fall away from the body. Turning the contracted energy that is required for asana, turning that energy back out again, feeling yourself expanding. Watching the breaths as they come and go. Make sure to soften around all the sense organs living on your face. Unhinge your jaw. And allow your tongue to take up a little more room inside of your mouth. Soften your throat. A poem by Rumi, The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. For the next minute or so, just sitting with whatever is passing through your guest house with utmost hospitality. Let's start to sweep through with the breath. Big inhale all the way up to the top of your head. Big exhale all the way down and out through the feet. Maybe another big breath comes through. Maybe you're back to easy cycles of breath. Start to invite this very simple movement. Just waking up fingers and toes. Waking up arms and legs. Maybe rocking your head. Beginning to bend knees and elbows. Bringing hands onto your belly, feet onto the floor. And gently easing to one side of your body. Just pause there for a moment. This moment of transition from our mats to the rest of our day. Go with ease, go with care, go with presence. As you find your way up to seated. And once you're there, joining your hands together in front of your heart. Inviting gratitude. And on an in-breath, nice deep breath through the nose, out breath, nice full long exhale. There's a place within me that I know to be divine. I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you next week, and take care.